Hi everyone. So I put together this video just to detail what the term world schooling means for our family. Um, World schooling can be called homeschooling or unschooling or world schooling, but it's just different for each family. So this video is just going to detail what world schooling means for our individual family. Just to give you a little bit background about my kids. As far as their education goes. For kindergarten through second grade, we lived in Colorado, and they went to a language immersion school where they learned French. So, hi, Madame Guidon. And then when we moved to North Carolina, my kids went to a public school, and things were a little bit more challenging for them. So my son has autism and ADHD, and then my daughter has ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder. So it was a little tough for my kids in the language art school, just because there wasn't a set special education program. There was a director, but they really needed the one-on-one individualized support. So my daughter went to a public school for a little while in Colorado, while my son stayed at the language arts school. But the plan that we had worked out for both schools was that school would be broken down for them. I mean, schoolwork would be broken down for them, and they wouldn't get the same amount of work as other students because it would just be too much for them, and they just couldn't handle the same amount of workload, and they process things differently than the other children's in the class did. So any homework or schoolwork that they didn't complete at school, they would bring home over the weekend. And so it was just really tiring because we would spend a lot of the weekend catching up on work. And that was the same in North Carolina. Any work that they didn't complete at school would be brought home. But the school in North Carolina, they didn't follow the IEP, which is individualized education plan, just like I had set up with the Colorado schools, where the work would be broken down for them. The North Carolina school was not doing that, and so both of my kids would just lash out because they were so overwhelmed with schoolwork. And the last school was just not following that plan, and so my kids would come home upset from school. And I always thought school was fun, and so it's really sad that my kids were becoming upset at school because the schoolwork was just too much for them. So that's part of the reason of why we went on this world schooling journey of traveling the world, just so that they could get a break and I could get a break from work, and we could just mesh as a family together. So how we operate with school now. My kids do 15 minutes of reading a day, and while they're reading, they write down words that they don't know. And so then after that, they spend a day looking up those words, figuring out how to spell them, figuring out how to use those words in a sentence. And then for the rest of the day, they spend an hour doing online school work. So I use a program with them called Power Homeschool. You can find them at powerhomeschool.org, and I'll put the link in below. I like that program because it's self-paced. They don't have to stick to a structured schedule. They can go as slow, as fast as they want, and the program will not let them move on until they have mastered that skill, which is great because they're doing it at their own pace and they're learning how they need to learn. So my kids could be doing the same subject but at different levels, and I'm not having to shift focus while they're doing the schoolwork because they're each at different levels and I need to attend to both. That's not what this program is. They do it, like I said, they do it online, and it's all at their own pace. And then another tool I have them doing is Prodigy, which is an online math game. So it's making math fun for them because it's one of their hardest subjects. But with Power Homeschool, they get the subjects of the 5 core subjects of math, language arts, social studies, science, and math. I'm sorry, and science. So yeah, science, language arts, math, social studies, and language arts. So those are 5 subjects, and then they get to choose 2 additional electives that they want to do. So my daughter is doing music, and they both have to do science, and my son is doing coding and also science. I'm sorry, and also Spanish. So those are the 7 subjects they do, but they don't have to do all 7 on one day. They stick to one subject a day for an hour. And I found that that has helped them become more focused on the subject and not as stressed out. And then the rest of the learning is just from what we do going outside on a daily basis. So that can be conversing with someone in Spanish, going grocery shopping, learning how to count the different currency. Like here in Colombia, it's a Colombian pesos, which was different than Mexican pesos, so they're learning how to figure that out. Figuring out the different Spanish words, and going to a restaurant, ordering their food for themselves, going to learn hands-on about cultures. So that's, for us, is what world schooling is about. And I found that they're less stressed, they're learning, and they're enjoying it. We could go to a science museum and it's hand-on science museum. I mean, they're hands-on science learning, which is great. So I'm loving this world schooling journey that we've been on, because like I said, my kids have changed. They're not as stressed out about learning. And then we also have a Spanish teacher that comes here every other day to teach us Spanish for an hour, so that's helping as well. But it's amazing the changes that have been happening with my kids as far as learning. They're like, at school, they would throw books because they were so frustrated. They would throw markers and crayons, and I mean, it was just bad. It was just because they were so overwhelmed. And I'm loving that sometimes there are overwhelming days and I know when to pull back, but it's not as frequent as it was when they were in school, and I'm loving that. Like I said, they're becoming different people, and I'm loving how much they're learning. But if you want more information about how others are world schooling, or if you want to learn more about the world schooling culture, a Facebook group that I'm in that I really enjoy is We Are World Schoolers, and I'll put the link down below so you guys can check it out. But it's been a great group, and there's different subsections on there to connect with other world schooling families. But if I have a question about a subject, about how my kids can learn better, or how I could change things around, I can go in there, ask questions. If there's recommendations on places and educational things on different areas, I can go in that group and ask questions, ask for advice, opinions. There's other families in there with children with special needs, so that helps. So I can learn from them of tools they use with their special needs children, so they could still learn while traveling. So yeah, if you have any questions. So there's Ross doing Prodigy, which is a math game online. And then Phoebe is doing her online homeschooling program and learning Spanish. So if you're interested in getting started in the world of world schooling, my first recommendation would be to find a program that works for you and your child. So if your child loves structure or needs structure, and you're not going to be traveling that much, I would look into something that's more structured, like the K-12 one if you're from the United States. For one that is less structured, like I said, ours, it's powerhomeschool.org. But there's so many out there, so many different programs out there for world schooling, if that's what you're interested in. Second would be find a location, a country that is where homeschooling is okay. So if you're in a country like Germany, world schooling is not acceptable there, home, because it's like homeschooling. So it's not acceptable there. Your child would have to go to a school. So find a less structured, or actually a welcoming country that's open to homeschooling. Such as Mexico was a good start for us, and Colombia is a great start for us too, for world schooling. But again, you have to find those countries that are welcoming for world schooling. Third, find other activities out there in the community that you can do with your child while you're traveling, so they can continue learning hands-on. Such as look for science museums, look for botanical gardens, look for zoos, look for outdoor activities if that's what you guys are interested in. Look for the local library and get recommendations there. Call the tourism board and ask for recommendations there. And also I would recommend joining local expat groups to get information about where you can take your child to continue world schooling and having that hands-on education. And again, join Facebook groups like the We Are Worldschoolers. Go to World Schooler Summit, Family Summits. The World School Family Summit holds one, I think, twice a year or once a year. I'm not too sure on that, but don't quote me. But I will post their link below so that you can find them and read up on the summits for yourself. But those are my three recommendations for if you want to get started into the world of world schooling. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can always write a comment below, and I will answer your questions as best as I can. And if not, I can point you to someone that could give you better answers. But again, this is how we world school. Like I said, every family world schools differently. Some families have it more structured. I like it less structured for my kids because I've seen what the structured pace does for them. But yeah, thanks for watching, you guys.